Hello and welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soul in the studio today with a fun share before I get too far into work here. I had mentioned before in some previous videos that one of the things that I started this year was following Roxy Creations, and Rachel and her sister Sarah are doing a slow stitch series that everybody can join in, and it doesn't matter your level. And so I thought, well, I'm going to join in on this because I've always wanted to learn how to do slow stitching, some of the beautiful work that I've seen, collage, that kind of thing. So it started in December. I will put a link down below to the playlist. You'll want to watch them in order if you decide to join. You can join in now. It's very low stress. It's so much fun. There's an Instagram hashtag. I will put that down below. There's a Facebook page group that you can join where you see everybody's work there, and on Instagram. You can just share your progress and what you're working on. So it's really fun to see all the different interpretations. So in December, they each put up their first introduction video, and there are two sisters if you don't follow Roxy Creations. So there's Roxy Creations, and then there's Roxy Creations by Sarah are their two channels. And they both put up videos once a week on Wednesdays. And they started out in December with an introduction showing you kind of, size book that you might want to use for your book. And then we're going to be doing an entire book of slow stitch. They went through materials to collect that you can use, and they really gear it towards beginners. So if you have zero experience like me, you'll enjoy this project. It's really teaching you from two different people, which is nice because they do things a little different. They have a little different styles. Rachel's left-handed, so you even get to see the stitching and things done left-handed. They did the introductions, and then they started teaching you some of the basic stitches. So you only did 5 in a video, and they did a total of 20. So you ended up with 2 sampler pages. Some people did it all in one. Even the sampler pages, people took different takes on and ideas instead of just doing them in rows. One gal did it on ticking, which made her rows really nice and straight, and I love that. I wish I would have thought of that myself or seen her thing beforehand, because I would have loved to have done mine on ticking. I ended up trying to make mine a little bit different by doing this little heart, and it's so fun because someone else saw that and then they did a heart, and so she posted hers. So it's just a fun, nice group of ladies. I have my 2 samplers, and I've shown those before, but I wanted to share today my first page for January that I did. I'm finally finished, I think. I actually had done this video last week thinking I was finished, but then when I saw it on camera, I wanted to do more. So I went ahead and just scrapped that video and finished it up. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today. The one thing, now that we're all kind of finishing with our first month, is this week's videos, they showed how they were going to stitch the pages to their books. And I was already starting to think about that. And when I initially cut all my fabrics, I just used a really thin cotton fabric. I just had a big enough scrap of this to use for this entire project. So I had went ahead and prepared my pages the way that Sarah is going to do hers, which is just kind of, we'll call this a signature. That's what I was planning to do. But as I was doing my page, thinking about how I would stitch it, knowing that my sampler was going to be on this other side, either one of these pages is going to show the stitching from the other side. And I didn't know that I was going to like that. I don't know what my other pages are going to look like. I might not want to see that. So Rachel's going to do hers more of an accordion, where it's one long strip of fabric, the height of your book, and then you fold it, that strip, just in an accordion way. That way, each of your pages can be sewn to where it belongs, but the backside won't show in the end because it's accordion to the next one, if that makes any sense at all. I'll fold this one as if this is, my fabric was continued here. I would have one page here, and then I would have this crease before the next page. So my back sides of my stitching are going to be back here where you don't see them. And so each page will have, you can do a different stitch or whatever you wanted to attach it, but it won't affect the page on the other side. I hope that makes sense. They've explained it in their videos, and like I said, I'll put the playlist down below so you can start from the beginning if you want to join this. It made me decide that I want to switch how I'm I'm going to do my book before I stitch these on. I had already cut all my pages and my bases. We call these bases. This is what you're going to slow stitch on for each month. And you do only one page a month. That's why this is such a doable project. I just work on it in the evenings, and not even every evening, and just while you're watching TV, it's just something that's really fun to do. I'm going to show you my page. I have my book ready and I had my pages, and then maybe at the end you can help me with what to decide for my base fabric. I went and pulled a few things today. I don't really want to go buy any fabric, and I don't have, most of my sewing was decorative sewing, so a lot of my fabrics are more upholstery and decorative and thicker fabrics, but I did find a few scraps that I have that could work, so I need to decide that so that I can attach my pages. But January's prompt, which I think next week they'll probably be doing that for the February one, since we'll be in February. They didn't do it. I watched both videos to the end, and I didn't see where they pulled what our next prompts are, but they have 2 bags that have words in them, and that's your prompts for that month. So January's was lace and bouncing bunny, and they said your bunny didn't have to be bouncing, but they wanted to see a bunny somewhere on your page. So I will share with you what I did on mine, and I don't know how good my lighting is that you're going to see all the detail now that I've already started, finished putting things on it. This first fabric, the first thing that you do is you have your base fabric, and then you get a bunch of scrap fabrics that you can kind of collage for your background. So my interpretation, even though, the whole bunny and lace thing, the first thing that pops into your head is springtime, but my page is for January. So I kind of want, it's a journal of stitchery. So I want my journal to really kind of reflect that month, so it kind of speaks something about my month. Well, for me, January, we were covered in snow. I live in the mountains, and we had a ton of snow over the holidays. So I wanted it to be kind of white and snowy looking colors. And then outside of my bathroom window is a big boulder retaining wall that is kind of in front of my window, and then the driveway kind of sits above that. And when I look out that window, every single morning I get up, I look out that window for wildlife, and that's where I've seen bunnies. So my first thought was, where I live is bunnies outside my bathroom window. So as I was digging through fabrics and lace and things to find for my base, I found this little piece of lace that was actually a scrap already cut this way. I had mitered those corners. So I didn't even trim that or anything. I just took the shape that it was, and I thought, oh, that looks like a roof line. So I will make that be my house. And then the fabric back here, I know you can't see it on camera because it's just, I've got so much stitching going on there now. But there's actually very faint writing text on that fabric. And that was a fabric a scrap I had from some fabric I had photocopied from one of my vintage collage ephemera pages. And then this is some fabric that I had rusted for my Bodhi journal, and then just a scrap of like French seed bag. And then this one, I don't remember this one was, I had a couple of pieces of new fabric actually that I had just bought of Kathy Holden's flea market quilting fabrics, because they have a lot of different, vintage and ephemera kind of things on them. So I picked that one. It was white, and it was kind of like china plate, so it was rounded, and I thought that could look like snow drifts. And then there was a piece that had text on it, and the word snow was in there, so I cut out that little piece. And then I had a piece of that's like newsprint fabric, and it said frosty morning, so I grabbed that one. And then I had another piece, this one down here, you can't really tell, and it's behind the tree, is another one from Kathy Holden that looks like bleached out barnwood kind of thing. So I used a couple pieces of that, and then a little piece of ticking, and then just some different laces. This was actually a wider piece of lace. This page is going to sit on the left side, so I wanted my page to kind of have a pretty finished looking edge. So I cut the lace in half and sewed half of it on the back and then half of it on the front, and then I've added some little teeny tiny glass seed beads to the inside of that little hole. And then some stitching. I attached mine using Rachel's secret hidden stitch. I'm not sure what it's called, hidden stitch, I think. So all these long stitches you see, you just kind of go rows and rows and rows. The long stitches on the back side, and then there's just a little teeny tiny stitch on the front side, and it's what gives it kind of this quilty puckery look, which again, you can't really see because now I've stitched over all of that. Sarah, when she did hers, she did different cantha stitches for attaching her collage fabric. And I'm going to do that at one point. And in fact, on this one, I did kind of do the underline of each word as kind of a cantha. And then I did them on the ticking also. And then I wanted to do some kind of like snow drifty look. So these are just back stitch in kind of a swirly pattern to look like snow drifts. And I did that here also. And then let's see what other stitches. And then I did move my smoke here. I wanted snowflakes. It was snowing. So I did different sizes, different kinds of threads, all in white, and different amounts of thread. So some of them are 1, some of them are 2. And then this one is like a perle that's a little bit thicker. It has a little shine to it. So I did just with straight stitches, kind of like little stars for snowflakes. And then some I did with a lazy daisy and then the straight stitch to make my stars, and then put the little glass beads so they'd sparkle. So I did that kind of all over, even falling down here into the ground. And then these don't have the little sparkly beads on them. And then I needed a tree. I wasn't sure I was going to do any color on this at all. I was going to maybe do white. I was still struggling at that point with what to even do for a bunny. I didn't know. Oh, and I did this at the very beginning too, was the one thing I kind of did the easy stuff first because I'm brand new to this. I think one of the hardest thing, I'd never done a thing like this, is where to even start and to not be afraid that you're going to put something in you don't like, that kind of thing. So I really did keep it all white and went to the obvious things first. Like if this is going to look like a house, I wanted it to have snow coming down the roof. We have lots of icicles. So I did just some straight, kind of satin stitchy, but I made them different lengths so it would look like the icicles hanging on the roof. So I kind of went to the obvious things first until I could figure out my bunny. So I really had just done all the white stitching that you see to that point. Then I decided, I thought I have to figure out the bunny because I want to know what color he's going to be and how I'm going to do it. So I just ended up finding a picture on the internet, and it was one that was like an etching, and I had it printed out. I don't know what I've done with it now, but it was just like an etching, and I thought that would help guide me as far as where to do my stitches, make him look hairy. But after I printed him out and he was going to be really tiny, I thought, you know, I really liked that turkey work thing, making him look like a furry bunny. So for that, I did get a little hoop, because all of this you do without a hoop. You can use a hoop if you want, but you really don't need to. And I think part of slow stitching is that it's not perfect. And so it's just, you know, handwork in kind of a less structured way, maybe, than like the old fashioned embroidery. So I did get a little hoop for that. I printed my bunny onto a piece of fabric, and it was just in the center. And I had a little trick for doing that, and I'll kind of share that. I just shared in my last video how I print on fabric when you do like a whole 8.5 by 11 sheet. But for this, I only needed a tiny thing. I knew my bunny was going to print right in the center of my paper. So I didn't really want to waste one of those whole sticker sheets. So what I did is I wanted to have a little bit of stickiness. I needed to stick it to my paper before I printed it. And I probably could have used some like repositionable glue stick or something like that, just to get it tacky enough to stick to my paper, and then, you know, tape all around it so I could run it through my printer. That would have worked too, I think. What I ended up doing, just because I have it, is I just cut a little piece of my rusted fabric and I put it through my sticker maker. I've used this before and I just love it. It just puts sticky backing on whatever you run through here. And the tape dispenser that's in here can be permanent or repositionable. So I just use the repositionable all the time, because then I can, you know, remove it. I'll put a link to this down below in the description if you've never seen these or used these. They're really handy. I use that to make my fabric sticky, just a little piece. I put it in the middle of my 8.5 by 11 paper, and then I could run it through my copier and then peel it off. So now I have a sticky fabric bunny. It was sticky backed, and I didn't really want to work with it like that. Plus, I only had about this big piece of fabric, and I wanted to put it in that hoop. So I stuck that to a piece of my scrim. You can use any kind of thin other piece of fabric, and then put that in the hoop. And then that way I could start working on that little tiny bunny with something I could actually hold on to. So that bunny took a long time because you can see the stitches are really close together, but you can see where I've trimmed it around. And my picture of my bunny had, because it was like an etching, had darker parts and then white parts. So I used the darker kind of a taupey color, kind of a little taupey brown color for the darker parts, and then just went kind of a little lighter on the color for the white part. And then when I did his tail, I did it all white. And then when I trimmed it, I didn't trim it quite as short. I wanted it to look more fluffy, but then I kind of beveled it almost into his body. So that kind of gave him that, where you could see his tail. And then the funny thing was, the last bit that I was putting the loops in was the center, and it was white, and it was almost in the shape of a heart, my last bit that I needed to do. And I really toyed with the idea of making that a heart. Well, after I had this kind of a little bit more finished than this, I had my tree in, I had my branches and my little pine needles in. But my tree trunk, I hadn't filled in this much. I don't know if you can even see this, but my outer edge, and then there are a couple of inner little pieces that look thicker. I used all 6 strands for that. So it was more of an outline of a tree because the fabric behind it was bark, like barnwood. But then I ended up wanting to fill that in more. So to fill it, I used 2 colors to do that, just to get the variation. And then when I went back and filled in between, I did the same thing. And I did a stem stitch for that. But instead of always going to one side, I would alternate so that it gave my tree some irregularity. So those are probably 3 different colors of browns and kind of greeny browns and that kind of thing to get that tree trunk. So once I had that in, I showed it to my husband, and he's so funny because he's totally not into crafting and stuff, but he gets opinions about things. So he had looked at it, and at that point I think I had a roof, but not this thick. I did not have the chimney. I didn't have a window. I had the bunny on there. I really only had the white background, the bunny, and a tree when he saw it. And he's like, it needs more color. It needs a pop of color. How about putting like, I did have the window. And he said, what about putting like a red heart in the window? Just one little pop of red. And I thought, that's so funny you said that, because I was tempted to do it on my bunny. So I did go ahead, after he said that, I did go ahead and made a little red heart on my bunny. And then the eyes are just little French knots that are in like a really dark charcoal, and then the whiskers, same thing. So I kind of had finished that. And then I wanted to do a little bit more color down here. So I put a little, we have some shrubbery that's up on the driveway that looks like the little spruce kind of plant. So I put a couple of those up. And then we have some tall grasses that go along that retaining wall, but they're trimmed back this time of year. So I kind of did, dry grass looking thing. And then I had left these edges kind of frayed because I like that. And so I kind of, when I put my bunny on, I didn't get him quite all the way down. So I just did some more kind of grassy stitches there. So I had done that. And then I did my video, and I looked at it and I thought, it was still kind of not quite finished looking. So I bordered my window. Originally I only had the green. I bordered my window. I added a little bit more thickness to my roof, and I did that in 3 colors. We have a slate roof, so it's kind of a multicolored. So this is kind of 2 colors of green and a taupey color. And then I thought I need a chimney. It looked kind of naked. And we do have a chimney there. So I found this little piece of fabric, and it's the Kathy Holden Fabrics, her flea market series. And there are lots of little ephemera kind of thing. And so there was this little label on there, and it said cold swaged something. It was for like needles. So I liked that I could get the words cold and trade out of the chimney shape. So I thought that was a funny little tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. So I just did my little chimney, and I stitched it on with a blanket stitch. And then I actually, even, you can hardly see it, but I added like a little random couple of bricks in there. And then I wanted smoke. When I was digging through things way back in December for things I might be able to use in these pages, because they're kind of like, I don't want to say, kind of like mixed media in a way. You want different texture and different items kind of thing that you can use in soft journal pages. So I had gone through my yarn I knit, so I have a whole bag of scraps of yarn, and I had this one that was really fuzzy from homespun yarn, and it's kind of that smoky color. So I thought, well, that's going to be smoke. And I thought originally I would just stitch kind of like swirls that you see. So you're not going to see it on camera, and I didn't want to do too much of it, but I do have, if I show you, I do have smoke coming out of my chimney. And to do that, I'm going to leave it like this. I don't think I'm going to stitch it down because it's just going to be in my own book. But I grabbed a bit of this strips, and then I just twisted an end to kind of get a thicker piece, and then I just have that stuck behind my chimney so then the smoke kind of comes out. So that was kind of my little fun, quirky thing to do. So that's my page. It's finished. I really like how it turned out for my very first one. Like I said, I was very timid about it at the beginning and didn't have a lot of stitching. But once I saw it on camera, I thought, no, I want more in there. I just want lots of little secret things and just little things messages that I know. So that's my page. Now I have to figure out my accordion thing. And I was half tempted. I woke up this morning and I was thinking, I really like ticking, and I don't have, a lot of the right weight of fabrics for my page bases. And I really love the ticking. So I'm kind of thinking, since I have to cut a new piece, I can have the stripes go this way. And this is a nice neutral color. I have a whole bunch of this. I used to use it for the bag linings for my Junkin sack. And I wasn't sure what I had. I dug around. I want to save this, I think, for printing on fabric because it's white, but I don't want to use that. It's too white. I have this, but again, this would also be good for printing on fabric, so I almost don't want to use that either. This one is a little creamier color, and this would work for my base of pages, but it's so white. I don't know that I want that big a white of an edge. I could dye it, I suppose, like tea or coffee dye it. That might be nice. So I could do that and dye it. Or I do have this that is, same cotton, but it's kind of has almost a oatmeal-y, little flecks in it. And I don't know that I have enough, but I might. And this might be, I have more of this. I could use this as just kind of an off-white again, if I have enough of those. Again, this is just another one, another little bit of a color. These were all, things I had made a cheap valance before I got draperies done, and just to cover windows temporarily. So I have some of that I could use, I guess. And then I have this one that's more of like a muslin, and it has a lot of that flex. So this would, at least it has some kind of texture to it. And it's not that much is going to peek out. You're not going to see too much of it, but you will see a little bit between your pages, I think, you might. And then if any of the edges stick out, my book pages are, you want your pages to be almost as big as your book, with a little bit hanging around. So they might, my pages are a little smaller, so I might see a little edge peeking out. So that's kind of why I thought the ticking might be fun. I don't know what my other pages are going to look like, so you kind of want them to all look good with ticking, but I think this is pretty neutral, So I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments. Give me your opinion. Is that too much pattern, or I don't know? Because they're going to kind of go on like this. They'll go like this, and then there'll be an accordion. Actually, I'm going to have another page. I'm going to have a title page. I just haven't done it yet. So it'll actually be on this side. But see how you see in the spine where those get sewn in? You're going to see that. I won't have this much hanging out, but you get the idea. And then this one is going to have been folded this way because it's an accordion, so you might see that little edge. So I don't know. I was thinking that might be kind of cute. So I'm kind of leaning, if you want to know what my opinion, I'm kind of leaning either towards the ticking or that if I have enough, this muslin one, just because it's different than my bases. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I need to figure it out so that I can get these stitched in because I'm anxious to kind of stitch them in as I go, but they'll go like this, and then I'll have a title page. So that's my fun project. I hope you like my first page. It was so much fun doing it. It's not too late to join. You can, you're going to do this at your own pace anyway. The videos are there. There's like 19 or 20 videos already up. So you'll be able to, start whenever, and then you just do one page a month. So if you're fast, you'll be able to catch up in no time. I don't know what February is going to be, but I'm excited. So I'm going to get back to work. I've got that bright colored hand painted junk mail kit to get finished. So you have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.